Welcome back. Today we're going to be making a citrus slice, which is basically an uncooked square, and we actually ice it before it actually goes into the fridge to set, and it's really boosted with that actual citrus taste. And our citrus today is going to be oranges and lemons, and we've got a wee bit of dried apricot in the recipe as well. So to start off, we need to actually make the base, or the actual slice itself. So I've got in here 250 grams of basically chopped vanilla biscuits, or vanilla wine biscuits. Now, I've just put those through the food processor and crushed them down. You can actually keep a bit of texture in there if you want them more lumpy, shall we say, or not as broken up as much, then you can do that as well. To that, we're going to add 1 cup of coconut. Now, if you've got anybody who doesn't like nuts, then you could leave that out. You could substitute that with maybe some more dried fruit, so a mixed dried fruit with sultanas and currants and raisins in it would be fine. Or you could just boost up the biscuit quantity to actually give you that same amount. To that, we're going to add our apricots, and these are just a standard dried apricot, and I'm just going to chop those down a bit finer so we get a nice mix of those through the actual slice. So just slice those through. And again, if you didn't like apricots, you know, you could put dates in it. You could just change it whatever around to suit. So then what we need to do now is put our butter on to melt. So I'm just going to put the microwave on to soften that butter. And while that's doing, I'm going to run through the ingredients for the icing. So the icing is basically a cup of icing sugar, and I've sifted that icing sugar to make sure we've got no lumps in there. And then we also need some citrus for our icing, but also for our slice, because it is a citrus slice. So I'm using a zester. So all I'm going to do is take my orange, using my zester, which most people are probably familiar with, and I'm going to remove the zest off the orange and the lemon. Now, I quite like this with these long strips of zest in there. If you don't like that yourself, then you can actually just grate it in with a normal grater, and especially if you don't have a zester, you can just use a grater, or even the microplane, which I use regularly in the program. So we want to take all that zest into there, and we'll do the same with our lemon. If you had access to limes, the lime would be quite nice in this as well. And remember, when you actually eat this, you're not going to get a full strip of zest, because we're going to cut the slice into smaller portions anyway. So out comes our melted butter, and to that I'm going to add half a tin of condensed milk. So I just already had my half tin measured out, so I'm just going to mix that in with the melted butter. All that in there, and just mix those together a wee bit. And then I'm going to transfer that into our breadcrumb mixture. So all of that goes in at once, making sure you get the last of that condensed milk out of the bottom, and then we start mixing all those ingredients together. So as you can see, it's quite an easy recipe. Of course, as I said, you don't have to bake it, so it's uncooked. All we have to do is put it into the fridge to set. Great for lunch boxes. Great if you're a female teenager and you've got your girls coming around after school. You give them a little slice of this, nice and sweet, a wee bit different. So that's all come together quite nicely. So we get our sandwich tin, and we're going to put that straight into the sandwich tin. We don't need to grease the tin, because there's enough butter in the actual mixture that it's actually going to come out. And this is a really good spoon to have if you've got one. If not, you could just use a normal dessert spoon. But this actually lets us press the slice into the tin, get it into all the corners, and then lets us basically smooth it out so we get it nice and even. So we don't have it thick at one end and thin at the other. So that's the first stage done. Now I've just got some more butter I'm going to soften, and this is for the icing. So we need to juice our lemon and our oranges, or orange. And again, you can add as much or as little of the juice as you like. So I usually find that I put in a whole orange, or the juice from a whole orange, and then just a wee bit of the lemon juice. Just watching out for those pips. So of course, if you've only got orange juice at home, then just use orange. Now if you didn't have a fresh orange and you wanted to make this, you could actually use a good orange juice. Would be ideal as well. So there's our butter that goes into that as well. Wooden spoon, and we want to mix all those ingredients together. Now it can be quite a runny icing depending on how much citrus you've added to it. If you like it a more firmer icing, then you could add some more icing sugar to it. But remember, it will set because it's got that butter content in it. So you can hopefully see that all that icing sugar is all incorporated. So now we take our slice, pour that over the top. And now we just want to smooth it out so it's all covered. So this goes in the fridge. I'd put it in the fridge for a good couple of hours to let that base set and that icing set. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to transfer this to the fridge. So here's the one that I've previously made, which is nice and set. So I'm just going to run my knife around the edge of my tin. And because we're using the tins that expand, we should be able to slice that out, which I just have. And then we can cut this into nice serving pieces. So we'll bring one of those out onto our board. Move them up a bit. So there we have it. There's our wonderful zingy citrus slice with those apricots and that wonderful zest of orange and lemon. I'm Scott in the Q Kitchen, and this is Cooking for Teenagers.